But I've been thinking a lot about it and realising just how hard it is to be his friend. How do you be friends to someone who cannot talk? He will start talking about something and pointing and getting enthusiastic, and for the life of me, I can't understand what on earth he's driving at. And if I've got him out somewhere, I'll say, oh, well, let's go and get an ice cream. And he'll lapse into silence. It's as though he's been talking a language that I can't understand. So he gets frustrated, and I get frustrated, and it's not easy at all. And last year, he started rejecting me. When I came in the room, he'd go like that, and then he'd get up and shift his chair as far away from me as possible. Then he'd go outside and sit outside as far as he could. I'd go outside and sit with him, and he'd run inside again. And it got to be terrible. And this went on every time I went to see him, and I got close to giving up on him. In fact, I rang the district advisor of the Advocacy Trust and said, I'm not getting anywhere with this. I think I better pull out. And he pleaded with me not to. He said, look, just talk to him for 5 minutes, then go and talk to the staff. So I've done that ever since. He's calmed down now, and he seems to accept me again and throws his arms around me. I guess he has his down times, just like anybody else, but being disabled, he doesn't know how to cover up like we do. The point about this sort of person is they're very vulnerable. They could be ripped off. And part of this trust is just caring for people whose families have gone. Most of the guys in the house are in their 50s, and several of them have lost their families. So I think it's a good thing to be able to visit him every month and act as an advocate for him in the sense of just keeping an eye on his finances, on his health, his general well-being. So I'm going to continue being his friend, even though it's pretty tough. Thanks.
Good morning. This morning I just wanted to share with you a bit about being in Christian community and back in Wellington. And I lived in Christian community with 25 other people for a period of 10 years with my 2 children. And so I just wanted to share some of the stories about how we went about helping people. One of the things that we did was for our house to be a place of hospitality. And so when people were struggling in certain areas in their life and they might not have had money to cook, or they were just stressed in some way, they could come and share a meal with us. Or we would make meals and take them to people who were sick or who were stressed or going through some struggle. So hospitality was a big part of what we did in caring for people. Some other situations that I'd just like to share with you. We had one time a Taiwanese lady who had a cerebral palsy son, and she was married to a New Zealand man. They got married back in Taiwan, and when she came to New Zealand, he took off, and she was left not speaking English with a very disabled son with no wheelchair or anything else. So we took her into our community and managed to get a wheelchair for her son, help her to speak English, shared with her about Jesus, which was really interesting. When someone doesn't speak English, it's quite different. When you read the Bible, it's quite hard sometimes to share that message with people who don't speak your language. And with little Hank, we'd often end up having to go to the hospital in an ambulance. He'd have 20 fits a day. So we were often in an ambulance taking off to hospital. But now they live in their own home, and he has 2 wheelchairs, and he has a physiotherapist and a social worker and everything else needed to restore their life. We we'd have people come in who were maybe contemplating divorce, and they might be under financial stress. So when they came into the community, we'd help them get back on their feet again, and because it was cheaper living in community than it is in your own home. And when their finance built up, and when we'd work together on a whole lot of different issues, then they'd leave the community and go back into their own home again. We often had teenagers who might be contemplating suicide come and live with us, because it's a lot easier for a whole lot of people to have eyes on people and walk with people than it is just one family. And I remember going to hospital with people who'd had overdoses and things, but the people who came into our community, none of those people ended up dying and live full, wholesome lives again now. One mistake, we learnt along the way that you can make lots of mistakes helping people. And one time when we were feeling quite ambitious about what we could do, there was an alcoholic who used to live in the side of the hill in a cave, and we'd often chat to him. And anyway, we decided it would be a good idea if he came to live in community. And so to try and set up safe practices, we got a caravan out the back, because there's a lot of children in the community. We thought maybe it might be more wise if he was slightly removed. And so after a lot of planning, he came to live in our community, and we thought we'd put all the checks and balances in place, but he was drinking meths at the time, so he was a hardened alcoholic. Anyway, one time he happened to bring a prostitute back to the community, so we thought, okay, we didn't count on that one. So we made lots of mistakes along the way, and he ended up having to leave the community. But still, I think, it's worth taking the risk. And as church communities, we can do so much when we all bandy together to reach out to people in need. No, that's about all I'll share.
Can you stay from us? Some of you won't know that Julie's actually studying at Carey College in the pastoral leadership course there, and she's kind of having to spend, as part of her practice, her learning, as she's here in the church for 6